Well, welcome, good morning. I have done a count and we are above our quorum number, so we're about 50 people, so that's great. And so I'm going to officially call our meeting to order. And our main purpose today is to talk about the 2026 general fund budget for the church. And scattered throughout the church, hopefully maybe you've seen one or seen one online. There's something that's called our narrative budget. And so those are available online or throughout the church, or if you don't have one and you want to see one, certainly we will get you one at any point after today for you to take a look. A little bit about our budget process. That started several months ago. And we talk with all the committees in the church and we ask them to submit any requests that they might have for the new year, any new ideas that they had, anything that they wanted to say, well, we were doing this, we don't need to do that, but we've got other ideas. And so those requests from all of our committees went to Mike Schroeder, and Mike compiles all that stuff together. The executive team then looks at some of those requests. Mike does a lot of work with things that, some of us don't know on a day-to-day basis, like some of the bills that come in, and puts together a draft budget. That goes to the executive team, again looks at that, and then we take that budget to church council. So last month we took the budget to church council. Church council reviews it, asks questions, and they approved unanimously to bring that to this meeting. And so really it's the congregation that then approves or adjusts our budget for the next year. So that's where we're at in the process. And I had a couple things that I just wanted to highlight in this document. So first of all, thanks to Mike, thanks to Pastor Robin for all their effort in putting this together. There's a line item version of the budget that you can also request and that we're happy to have for you, and that's kind of the nitty gritty of, here's utility costs and all those things that come in. The narrative budget really is kind of our story of how we use our budget, and that's why we put this narrative budget together. A couple things that I just want to highlight. On page 3 of that document, we list out all our various sources of revenue. And that includes endowment distributions to the church, investment earnings. It comes from our largest source of revenue is our just regular giving from all of our members, kind of our spiritual practice of giving. We also get money from grants and Thrivent dollars. We have grants that we've received from the Synod. We also have dollars that come through members that are members of Thrivent, and those dollars come in. We get money from the Academy tuition for all the students that come in, and we also have then designated giving, which is like noisy offering, for example, that comes in, or any gifts that have been designated for a specific purpose that don't go to the general fund. So those are our different sources of revenue coming in, and that money goes back out then to outreach. It goes to the wider church, ELCA, and our synod that we support, and it also goes towards debt service that we have and maintaining our buildings and the safety, education, worship, and music programs that we have. We are a people business, and being a people business, our biggest expense is people and staff. And so we are appreciative of the staff and all the work that they do for that. So I wanted to highlight that. The other thing that I thought I would highlight would be some of the budget considerations that we're dealing with, that the church is dealing with, and I'm sure any business that you are familiar with is struggling with, as well as just in personal finances, and those include health insurance. Our health insurance cost is going up about 3%. That's not any new benefits, that's just the expense of the fact that health coverage is expensive, and it goes up. So we're looking at about a 3% change in our health costs for our staff. Property and liability insurance. Every time we have a hurricane, that impacts even those of us in Northwest Ohio that weren't impacted directly by a hurricane, but insurance costs, both property and liability insurance, are going up. And that, if I'm looking at the note here, that's been going up about 10% every year. And I know even when I was working at the city, we had those same kind of things. So businesses, everybody is experiencing that same issue. Utility costs are going up, and you've probably noticed that at home too. We've got about a 15% increase in the cost of utilities. Part of that's just usage. It's colder. This building is utilized every day, all day. And some of you don't think about that when you're not here, but we use it all the time. We're very good about turning things down because I've been in this room when it's chilly, and we do try and watch the heat, but the building's used every day. And our wages, we are proposing a 2.5% wage increase, which as we looked across our area, seemed very much in line, and we're talking about cost of living, trying to do that. So those are the major drivers on the expense side. Last year's budget was $954,000 that the congregation approved, and this year the proposed plan that we're asking for approval for is $993,000. Let me see where I'm at. So that increase in the budget is about 4.1% over last year's budget. If you look back, though, over the last 3 years, it's really from 3 years ago to now, that's a 3.3% increase over those last years, because we did have a year actually where budget went down. So I appreciate all the work that the staff does and the very conservative nature we have with approaching the budget. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, I'll take that as a wonderful explanation that I did. No. I'll take that as a wonderful job that Mike and the staff have done in preparing some of those things, and that things are going well. I do want to add one thing, and I passed over it, and I should not have passed over it. When we talked about sources of income, our endowment is scheduled to distribute about $36,000 this next year towards debt service and towards outreach. That's a wonderful thing. We had a 40-day campaign that we just finished. We had a $50,000 short-term goal for that campaign, and we brought in $70,122, which was awesome. We thought that was a great campaign for that. Our longer-term goal is to hit that $2 million mark, and I was talking with folks this morning. When the endowment was started 35 years ago, we had a $2 million long-term goal. So that hasn't changed. The economics of that make a lot of sense. That's still where we need to be. And our current endowment value is just short, $4,000 short of $1.6 million. So we've made tremendous progress, and that endowment fund has given back to the church over $550,000 since it was established. That's a wonderful thing. You know, the endowment for a church or an organization is different than your own individual time frame. You know, we have a time frame of how am I going to retire? What am I going to do? What am I going to leave for my kids? But an institution has a multi-generational time frame. And the fact that we've already distributed $550-some thousand back to the church, it's a wonderful thing. That endowment, it's kind of like we get to spend it over and over again. So we're very pleased. So it was a great campaign. We are well on our way. That was very good, and we have just such a wonderful and very generous congregation, so thank you. Okay, that bought you some time to think about any questions? Any questions? If not, I would take a motion to approve the ministry plan as presented for a $993,689 budget for next year. Anybody want to make that motion? I have several people back here. A.J. Fuller is one. Anybody want to second that? I have another, shout out a name here. All right, thank you, Diane. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. That's wonderful, thank you very much. I have two other things that I want to say very quickly. One is there are two things that can help our budget. The first is Thrivent dollars. If you're a Thrivent member, at no cost to you, the Thrivent Corporation supports Lutheran churches. It's a Lutheran organization. They support nonprofit organizations. And if you're a member, you can ask to direct money towards our church. I didn't realize that Sarah and I were Thrivent members for a long time, and that's because we don't have necessarily an account with them. But I was surprised when Sarah was born. Her folks set up a life insurance policy for her, and that qualifies us as Thrivent members. We get a bill once a year that, you know, we kind of get the bill and we forget about, but that qualifies us as Thrivent members. So I would like for you all to think about, you might be a Thrivent member and not realize it. So think about that. And we are happy to help, so you can have Thrivent dollars directed towards a nonprofit of your choice. Does not cost you anything, does not impact your benefits, your life insurance, your annual returns at all. So that's one way to help. The second way to help is, I noticed it was snowing this morning. And sometimes when it snows, there are some folks who are a little leery of bad weather and stay home, watch online, for example. But when they're doing that, they didn't bring their envelope on Sunday. And so as you look at our income that comes in from giving, we can tell, looking back in history, snowy days because there weren't people here. So we would like for people to consider making their gifts automated through their bank account or through the church website. Either of those things can help us avoid some of those ups and downs of bad weather or vacations, or when we're out of sight, out of mind. So those are two easy ways, again, not asking for more money, but asking for consistent money and money through the Thrivent program. All right, with that, Pastor Robin has something she'd like to share.
Thank you, Brian. One thing I'd like to add to the Thrivent announcement that Brian said, there are two ways at no cost to you that you can help the church or other nonprofit entities. One are the choice dollars that can be directed to the church or a nonprofit, but the other is an action team grant, and you may be eligible for one or two of those, and each of those are worth $250. So if we're going to have Vacation Bible School, you can apply for one of those, and we can use it to pay for drinks or for art supplies or all those kinds of things. So check, if you're a Thrivent customer, please check to see if you still have 1 or 2 left for this year, and let's put it into action. I could use one right now for gifts for the young people at the Juvenile Residential Center and the Juvenile Detention Center. We're going to have a Christmas worship for them, and we also give them gifts. And so if you have a card and you can apply for that, please let me know. But those are exciting ways that we can extend our budget and do some extra special things in the community. The other thing that I wanted to just kind of glom on with was the regular giving, and that leads to our church leaning more away from a membership model and more towards a discipleship model. And so what does that mean? We know that the greatest commandment is to love God and to love others. We also know that Jesus, before ascending into heaven, commanded that we should go and make disciples. And so if we are making disciples, that's different than making members. Members of a club sit back and expect certain advantages or privileges that go along with being a member of that club. But disciples are followers of Christ. They're learners of Christ. They're active in this mission that we have to make Christ known in the world. And so inside of that narrative budget, but you can see it around on some of the other publications that we have, the marks of discipleship are worship, regular worship, daily prayer, service, giving of your time, talent, or your treasures. What else? Fellowship, Bible study. I think those are the 6. And if we're practicing those marks of discipleship on an ongoing basis, then regular giving makes sense. Regular daily prayer makes sense. And all of those build us up and make us healthy followers of Jesus. So that right now, like Brian said, things are good here, which is wonderful. But sometimes we have fiery furnaces. We have fiery trials. Sometimes we run into times collectively as the people of God, but also individually when we hit those times when we're dry bones or there are times that are difficult. But if we've been a follower of Jesus and practicing these marks of discipleship, we know God is with us in those things. So it's how we are to practice being Christians, by being in regular practice of worship, Bible study, prayer, giving, service, and fellowship. So if you want to know more about that, please let me know, but thank you for giving me these few minutes to talk about that.
All right, the hardest part of the meeting, a motion to adjourn. There's one back there. Anybody second that? All right. So everybody in favor of adjourning? Say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Really quick, there is a clipboard going around for Christmas Eve volunteers. If you are interested in volunteering on Christmas Eve, see the clipboard. Sign up.
Yep. That was the clipboard for volunteering on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.